Have you ever considered why Cade Stover decided to stay at Ohio State? He could have easily gone to the NFL, where there are things that happened on New Year's Eve that led to Cade Stover deciding to stay at Ohio State for a fifth season.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Tuesday, April 11th in the year 2023, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. During this episode, we will discuss what teams have plans to bring Jaxon Smith-Njigba in for a top 30 visit. And is Cam Martinez playing himself into being a starter for Ohio State in the fall? But before we get to any of that, Cade Stover is one of those players that at the end of the season, there was a lot of discussion about if he would stay at Ohio State for another year or if he would enter the NFL draft. The year that he had one of the best seasons we have seen from a Buckeye tight end in a really long time, it surely seemed like Cade Stover was playing himself into being a really good option for teams in the upcoming draft. However, there were some things that happened on New Year's Eve that altered the changing of the decision that Cade Stover made. A back injury. Couple that with the loss against Georgia, those two things hand in hand really led Cade Stover to deciding that he was going to stay at Ohio State. Now, you may say, Jay, there were a couple factors that go into this as well. His position coach, Kevin Wilson, no longer being at Ohio State. Yeah, that could have been a reason why he was going to leave Ohio State. Actually, that really wasn't. He even talked about this to the media. Coach Key, the new tight ends coach, he's actually excited about what Key is going to bring to the table, and he thinks it's going to allow him to be a better tight end, and it's going to aid his progression. But also the quarterback situation, that didn't change him, sway his mind one way or another either. He has trust in Kyle McCord and Devin Brown, and that they can get the job done, whichever one day decides to be the starting quarterback for the Buckeyes. Cade Stover has a belief in them. But that back injury, man, I believe it was a hairline fracture. Most of us talking about and thinking about a hairline fracture on a bone in our back, what that would mean to us, that would put us down for a long time. Talk about not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to walk around, not wanting to be around people. Buddy, that's going to hurt. Cade Stover suffered this injury on New Year's Eve of 2022. The last game the Buckeyes played, even though it seems like it was a long time ago, buddy, that was 4 months ago. Really three and a half months ago, if you want to be exact, because we're in the month of April, haven't even finished the fourth month of the year. So when you think about all that, put it in a context, and for Cade Stover to be out there at spring practice, for Cade Stover to be out there participating, he has plans to play the spring game this weekend, and for Cade Stover to be the leader in this room that he is, it just magnifies more about what is going on in the mind of Cade Stover. Because the average person, I'll say this once again, if that happened to you, let me just take you out of the equation right now. If that happened to me, your boy would not be thinking about football right now. If it was 3.5 months later, playing football would not be something that would be on my mind. But not just that back injury, also that loss against Georgia, the special team that Ohio State had last year, the team that Ohio State, and this is Cade Stover believing that this team was special, that the team was really, really, really close. They weren't only really close. He believes Ohio State could have won the game. What do we have here? You have a motivated tight end. He calls that the hardest moment of his life. And there were numerous things that were quotable for him talking to the media, but him saying that moment in his life was probably one of the hardest moments of his life, and then said later on, literally the next sentence, hardest moment of my life for sure so far. Buddy, man, think about what that does to the mental of a football player. not just a college athlete, any level of football, professional football or college football, think about what that does to the mentals. Cade Stover was trying to make a play, trying to make an extra play, trying to hurdle over a defender of Georgia. Next thing you know, he's off the field, going to get an MRI to figure out what exactly is wrong with this young man. He's playing football. It doesn't seem like, just from the naked eye, if you did not know this story or know he got hurt recently, you probably would not think that Cade Stover, last year's starting tight end, was dealing with, recently had this injury, and he's practicing right now. You probably wouldn't see that. Why? Buddy, his mindset's different. A whole lot different. And you add that mindset in that he has to Ohio State's starting offense right now this year. A year ago, Cade Stover's numbers, they were really good for a Buckeye tight end. They weren't some of the best numbers from a tight end in the country, but they were really good a year ago. 36 catches. He played in all 13 games. 36 catches, 406 receiving yards, 11.3 yards per reception, and 5 touchdowns. Now, if you think me projecting right now what I think Cade Stover could do in this upcoming season, I actually think he could up almost every category this year. 40 receptions, 500 receiving yards, 6 to 8 touchdowns, and the yards per reception, that could be a little bit lower, but it really would not be a problem if it was right there at 11.3 or 12. He could literally up every single statistical category that he had a year ago. I'm thinking at least 40 catches, at least 500 receiving yards, at least about 6 to 8 touchdowns. I believe that's Cade Stover. I believe he could do that this year. And you know what a young quarterback's best friend is, or best friends are? There's 2 of them. The check down to the running back or reliable tight end. One of the 2 are going to be the thing or the things that Kyle McCord or Devin Brown will be relying on this upcoming season because, yes, you got Harrison Jr., you got Abuka, you got Fleming, you got Ballard, you got a lot of guys out there. You're probably going to have Joe Royer playing tight end for the Buckeyes as well. You got a lot of weapons, baby. But a young quarterback's best friend, even though some of the elite quarterbacks, some of their best friends, like a reliable tight end, and a check down to the running back. I have been saying this for a long time about Buckeye quarterbacks. Utilize the running backs in the passing game. Use a quick check down. It's going to be, instead of being 3rd and 8, could be 3rd and 2. Why? Because of a quick pass to a guy who's open, may not get a lot of yards after the catch, but does allow you to make the first down and make it easier for you to accomplish that goal. Cade Stover, I'm excited for what he's going to do this upcoming season. I believe he can change how young tight ends view Buckeye tight ends. And also, that injury, that back injury, the hairline fracture in his back, doesn't seem like that's changing his mindset at all. If anything, it's fueling him to be a better football player in the upcoming season. A Buckeye who will be a good player in the upcoming season, that season being in the National Football League, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, but there are numerous teams that are bringing him in for visits right before the NFL draft. What teams are there? Are they? We discuss that next right here on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Grand slams, no-hitters, and double plays are back. And there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Place your first bet and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. So don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. So we're always looking to see who has the upper hand or who is leaning more towards a former Buckeye and them possibly being drafted by this team or that team in the upcoming NFL draft. We're going to be talking about and discussing more about this very thing with people a part of the Locked On NFL family in the future. Some this week, some next week, definitely the week of the NFL draft. because a lot of teams out there are trying to get the services of Jaxon Smith-Njigba in the National Football League. Now, you may say, Jay, Njigba, NFL, it makes sense. Injury a year ago. Are teams going to be able to actually check out that injury? Absolutely. Are teams really going to bring him in for a top 30 visit? Absolutely. Now, many of you have heard top 30 visit a lot this cycle. Now, this was honestly, now I'm not saying this is a new thing. I don't know. This is my first time hearing top 30 visit. And I did a little search via an article. I actually was writing an article I was reading from, I believe this comes from Patrick Murphy. Let me double check this very quickly. Yep. Patrick Murphy from bucknuts.com covers Ohio State football and basketball for 247 Sports. He says a top 30 visit. He explains it very quickly, where teams bring in up to 30 players to their facility for interviews, meetings, and a physical. Now, there are numerous teams that are trying to do this with Njigba. This comes from a report via Ian Rappaport from NFL Network, the Falcons, and there are teams that are still planning to bring him in, the Baltimore Ravens, the Houston Texans, the Buffalo Bills, and the Dallas Cowboys. Now, at first glance, you're seeing the report that on Monday, Njigba was there. Great. It's already been done. But the fact that there are more teams that are coming out and saying, or that are reporting via just different people inside house, they're going after Njigba, that's great. The Ravens have no idea what the quarterback situation is going to be. I know for Njigba, it's great. Go to the NFL. But, yeah, if Lamar's there, great. But Lamar requested a trade. Lamar could hold out. I don't know what Lamar Jackson is going to do. And I truly don't think – I don't talk much NFL comments or NFL on the show. But I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to be swayed to change his decision to take away his trade request because the Ravens brought in Odell Beckham Jr. It wouldn't sway me. It isn't 8 years ago. This is 2023. OBJ is not the same guy he was 8 years ago playing football in the National Football League. The Houston Texans currently have the number 2 pick in the upcoming NFL draft, and they're trying to get a quarterback. Now, if it's Stroud and Njigba, that's great. I mean, that's absolutely a great thing. But I think the bigger need for the Texans is that guy at quarterback. I think the Panthers are probably going to take Stroud at number 1. But if they don't, surely the Texans take Stroud at number 2 in the upcoming draft. But, buddy, if you could tell me if I'm in Njigba and I can catch passes from Joshua Allen, ooh, that excites me. Now, I am more of a Dak Prescott guy than other people are. I'm not saying he has the best quarterback of the National Football League. I think that he gets a lot of bad attention. Great. But, hey, man, this is what you're looking for. You want a guy out there that is going to be sought after. Which team do you think is the best option for Jaxon Smith-Njigba in the upcoming NFL draft? Are you more of the Atlanta Falcons who just had him in for a top 30 visit? Are you more of a Baltimore Ravens? Are you more for the Houston Texans, the Buffalo Bills, or the Dallas Cowboys? Ultimately, Njigba's probably going to be picked, let me just guess, 15 to 20, at worst 25 in the upcoming draft. The Texans have the number 2 pick, and I do not believe they have the number 12 pick as well. So realistically, you could say, Jay, they could draft both Stroud and Njigba. I still think it's going to be them drafting Bryce Young. Do they go wide receiver at 12? I mean, they have needs all over the place. If Paris Johnson Jr. is available, do they go that route? I don't think they're going to go DeJuan Jones there. Stroud will already be gone by number 12. Paris Johnson Jr. could realistically be gone by number 12. I don't think DeJuan Jones is going to be a first-round pick. So realistically, the only Buckeye that I do see available at this time is Jaxon Smith-Njigba. But if it's up in the air between should the Texans take Paris Johnson Jr. at 12 or Njigba at 12, you might go offensive tackle. Why? because you want to have a guy. If Paris Johnson Jr. is there, and I have heard some say they think he is a generational talent at offensive tackle, I do not normally utilize that phrase on when I'm describing players. I think it's overutilized. I think people say it way too much. And ultimately, I do think that it's used in times that on players it should never be used for. Like I say way too much. A lot of times you hear it said with defensive ends or quarterbacks. Let's just pump the brakes on using that phrase. Like, let's just sit here and realize calling every quarterback a 2 or 3 year span a generational talent is probably not true, one. But two, you might want to fine tune or refine your analysis of the quarterbacks or the players, because you can't have that many generational guys. Like, you don't have a new generation. It's not every 2 years or every 3 years. There were times, now I don't know the whole distance in years between millennials and baby boomers and Gen X. Like, buddy, I don't know all that. But I do know that is not an every 5 year or every 8 year thing, every 2 year thing. I know there is quite a bit of time in between that. So I heard one person say Paris Johnson Jr. is a generational talent at tackle. Okay, cool. That's your thoughts. Okay, cool. We all have our thoughts. We all have the things that we kind of believe in and go by. Great, cool. That's what you say. But realistically, Paris Johnson Jr. is probably going to go at 9 to the Bears or 11 to the Titans. Now, the Atlanta Falcons, who just had Njigba in, had the number 8 pick in the NFL draft. I don't think Njigba goes that high. I literally do not think Njigba's going to be that high. There are too many talented quarterbacks, not so much receivers, just linemen in general, offensive linemen and defensive linemen. I heard there might be a cornerback, Devin Witherspoon from Illinois, who might be a top 10 guy, a more assured guy, a guy who's probably going to be going in that round. So that early, I could easily see that happening. So the Falcons at 8, that might be a reach. What other teams are here? I'm trying to think off the top of the dome. Buffalo Bills at 27. That might be a little bit too late because I do not believe that he's going to be available there. The Baltimore Ravens at 22. That might be the most realistic based off where I think Njigba will go. And then the Dallas Cowboys at 26. It might be a little bit too late for them as well. These top 30 visits are great. And ultimately, it's going to allow Njigba to go through the medical testing of the teams, get a physical for them to see once again. Now, he got tested a little bit at the combine. Got the height, the weight once again at the pro day. This is going to give the teams a little bit more time for them to see what his medicals are. Is his hamstring injury completely healed? Like, these are questions. If I'm a GM or a scout for a team, I'm asking all the questions, or a coach, I'm asking all the questions, doing all the tests. You're on my dime. You're coming into my house. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure we get all of our questions answered now. That we need answered about if we're going to draft you in our current spot or if we are going to move up to draft Njigba in the upcoming NFL draft. A player who cannot go to the NFL draft right now is Cam Martinez. But what he can do right now is work in himself into being a potential starter for the Ohio State Buckeyes in the fall. How is he doing that? Is he doing enough right now to get the attention of all the coaches, a starter in the upcoming season? We'll discuss what Martinez is doing in practice currently next on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more. And the best service in Central Ohio. Billiards Plus also can set you up with a brand new top-of-the-line grill that will last for generations. We all know how hard it is with the supply chain issues this year and getting certain things shipped on time. So when it comes to ordering that one big gift for someone you love, check out Billiards Plus and get there early this year. Billiards Plus carries the best pool tables from Brunswick, Olhausen, Canada, Billiards, and more. Plus, top-of-the-line grills from PK, Napoleon, Memphis, and the Griddle. That will be the last grill you own. Seriously, these grills stand the test of time. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. Check them out at billiards-plus.com. Billiards Plus, family owned and operated for generations. So I was recently on Raider Nation Radio in Las Vegas. Your boy Q is the host of that show, and he also hosts Locked On Raiders and Locked On Bets. You can hear him on the weekends occasionally on ESPN Radio. He's a very busy man, and he's really good at what he does. Well, when I was on there with your boy Q, we talked a little bit about some Buckeye players. Post-pro day, post-combine, what are my thoughts? And at the end of the segment, when I was on the radio show, I said this phrase, capture the moment, seize the day. Now, I forget which player I was talking about in the moment, but Q had me say it once again because he says, I don't want to misquote you. Capture the moment, seize the day. And that goes for everybody. Combine, pro day, doesn't matter. Spring practice, fall camp, week 3 in the season. You got to capture the moment as a player and seize the day. Seize the opportunity that is right in front of you. And I do believe Cam Martinez is currently capturing the moment, all the moments he has right now during spring practice. The Buckeyes recently got a transfer in from Syracuse in Jahad Carter. I know coming in, when he transferred, I said it then, I believe he's going to be your nickel corner in the upcoming season. Beginning of spring practice, I even said it once again. I even think that Jahad Carter not getting reps during the first team period of not getting first team reps during the first team period of spring practice, it didn't matter to me. I still thought he was going to be a starter in the upcoming season. Cam Martinez was there, and what we saw was there are no transfers that were part of the first unit for the defense during that particular practice. Not a problem at all. Just kind of prove yourself, keep working, keep grinding to prove you should be a starter at your new school. Not a big problem at all. Jahad Carter got hurt during the Student Appreciation Day the Buckeyes had, I believe, a couple Saturdays ago. And you know what happens when a guy gets hurt? It allows another guy to have the opportunity to step up, to prove himself, to make plays, and to make it harder for the coaches to decide who should be the starter. Now let's flash back to that first team period when the first team defense was out there. Cam Martinez was out there in that nickel corner or cover safety position. And so I'm sitting here thinking, okay, cool. Like, I still believe what I believe. I still think Davison Igbenogsis is going to start opposite Denzel Burke at corner. I still, at the time, thought Jahad Carter was going to be the starter for the Buckeyes at nickel corner or cover safety. Like, these are the beliefs that I have about the team. Now, my mind might be shifted just a little bit currently because Jahad Carter's injury might not be the only thing that is motivating Cam Martinez right now. Cam Martinez has been grinding. He has been working. He's been making plays all spring practice. And he's been showing, hey, I know it didn't start a year ago. I even know that I got scored on late in the season. May have been against Georgia. But one thing I do know is this. That was the past. If Cam Martinez knows anything about football and he knows that this is his moment to shine, and especially with an injury out there, he has to capture this moment, baby. He got to seize the day. Because if he does those two things every time he's on the field, every time he's working out, in every meeting, what are we going to find? We might see that Cam Martinez might be the best option for the Buckeyes at that nickel corner or cover safety position. I say both because I understand that some people say cover safety because Ohio State wants to run a safety-driven defense. I haven't really shared many thoughts about that. I may do that in the offseason in the summer because it kind of goes against what a lot of people are taught about football and how defense is supposed to be ran. But if we all understand, like, cover safety, that's what Ohio State wants to do, safety-driven defense. So I try to use both thoughts, both words when describing that position. But man, Cam Martinez, we might be looking at this young man being a starter at Ohio State in the upcoming season because of the work he's been putting in. Not just because he's been competing every single practice, but while competing, he's also showing he can be a guy a solid piece of the pie for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And the secondary easily was the weakest position at Ohio State a year ago. Easily. I will say that. I will say it again. And I'm somebody that tells you the D-line was not consistent last year at all either. Like, if you want to say what were the weakest positions on Ohio State's team a year ago, it's probably D-line and it's probably secondary. Secondary 1, D-line 2. That's something you don't normally think about at Ohio State. But that's where we are. And so when it comes to Cam Martinez, my only thought is, buddy, keep grinding. Capture the moments. Seize the day. Take advantage of the opportunities in front of you. One, during practice, but also a guy you're competing with is actually injured. And so I never want injuries. I never hope for injuries. I'm not someone that's going to say, I want that guy hurt. No, that ain't me. And I hope that's not you either. But what I do want is for you to take advantage of an opportunity. If somebody happens to be hurt, because injuries are going to happen, take advantage of it. Take advantage of the extra reps, the extra film time, extra time with coach. Take advantage of those moments. Because if you do that, if Cam Martinez does that, he can find himself starting for the Ohio State Buckeyes in the upcoming season. Guys, we're out here on a Tuesday. A few more days left. A lot of good stuff coming. We got a spring game preview coming up later in the week. I got shows recording. I'm going to be recording shows with John Garcia Jr., Tyler Rowland of Locked On Titans, Lauren Cox of Locked On Bears. I mean, we have a lot of good stuff. A little spring game action, a little recruiting, a little pre-draft conversation about Ohio State Buckeyes. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Buckeyes on the YouTube, on the Odyssey app, on the Apple Podcast app, on the Spotify app, or wherever you get your fine podcasts. Subscribe so you don't miss anything. If you're on the YouTube, hit that bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live. Locked On Buckeyes, everything on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's free for your enjoyment every day of the week. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. The weather outside is beautiful. It's warming up. I love it. Let's enjoy the day. Let's enjoy this moment. And also, we're getting closer. Oh, so much closer to the spring game this weekend. I'll be in Columbus. If you're going to be there, say hi to me. Don't be shy. I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of you and enjoying Buckeye football with Buckeye fans inside of the shoe.